are you, Alex?
I'm good, Rick. How are you?
Good to see you.
It's not just a piece of wood with strings, it's a being. Guys, welcome back. It's Eric here at the Loudboy Experience. That quote is from Alex Lifeson in the Rick Beato interview. It's not just a piece of wood with strings, it's a being. He's talking about his guitar. My takeaway from this interview, him and Geddy, but especially Alex, is that his love of playing guitar. I have a renewed respect for Alex as an artist, as an improviser, and as just a great guitar player. And it was such a joy to watch these interviews. I want to talk about some of the things we learned, some new stuff, some stuff we already knew, but also some bigger themes and concepts for our lives. Also, Rush memes. I'll explain in a moment. And finally, Wagyu Beef. Guys, I'm Eric. This is a Loudboy Experience, and let's go. In this episode, we're talking about Wagyu Beef, Rush memes, and the Alex and Geddy interviews with Rick Beato. My son and his wife are in Japan right now, and I'm just a little bit jealous because England, Italy, and Japan are like my top 3 bucket list destinations. So they're in the top 3 right now, but I'm very excited for them. He sent some photos of Mount Fuji, a bullet train going 200 miles per hour. But as a culinary guy who's worked in restaurants and who knows how to cook Wagyu beef, yes, he sent me these photos of Wagyu beef, and he said it costs $58 for this plate of Wagyu beef, and you get to grill it yourself. How cool is that? The steakhouse that I worked in a couple of years ago, we actually had Wagyu on our menu for a little while, and that sucker was $85. Came with a side, a salad or soup, right? So about $85, and that's before tax. So here in the States where I live, at Saltgrass Steakhouse, yes, we had Wagyu for a short time, and I was really blessed. My family was out of town one time, and I went down there with one thought in mind. I'm going to try that Wagyu beef. And here's what's great. Working at the restaurant, at the steakhouse, I got 50% off everything I ate, when I wasn't working. So I walk in there, and yes, I got it for like 40-something and change. Not bad for a cut of Wagyu in the middle of America where I live. Rush memes. Why am I bringing this up? Well, I'm not a meme guy because I don't spend a lot of time on social media. I just don't. I go there to share my videos. So I share on Facebook, where I think it's my entire name. I'm Eric Gardner, but also I'm on Twitter and I share there and so on. But I don't spend time reading. When I feel good enough and when it's go time, I make videos like I am right now. And after this, I'll be editing and then sharing with you. So I spend all of that free time actually creating videos. So I don't have a lot of time to go read. And this is not a slight against anything. This is no bigger speech about social media. It's just that it's not one of my things. So our friend Mark in LA that I mentioned in our last video, the guy who met Alex Lifeson, remember that guy? Okay, so Mark, he sent me a bunch of memes via email. And if you guys want to email me anytime, loudboy7k@gmail.com. Write me anytime you want. And I bring that up for this specific reason. So Mark sends me some memes. And these first ones right off the bat are actually from Vivian on Twitter. And I thought to myself, after Mark sends me these memes, I thought, you know what? I want to know what Vivian has. Literally just today, I checked her recent tweets, and it included all of these. She is a monster, meaning that's a good thing, on Twitter. It's Vivian2112. Okay, you go follow her, check out Vivian's, and so there's Geddy Spaghetti. Now we're getting into the stuff Mark sent me. And I love that. Already, I'm obsessive. This is great. Your first date doesn't know who Rush is, you kick her out of the car. So some of these are actually new to me. I've seen the spaghetti one before, and I've seen riffs on some of these before. But as they're playing, I just want to explain that, yeah, I don't spend a lot of time on social media, so I don't see the memes. Some of these you guys are probably rolling your eyes going, yeah, Eric, we've seen it, been there, done that. And if that is your response to me sharing these memes from Vivian and from Mark, please, loudboy7k@gmail.com, send me stuff, okay? Links, photos, stuff you created, stuff you found, videos, okay? Share your stuff with me and I will share it here on the Loudboy Experience. I've been really wanting you guys to join me. Alex Lifeson loves playing guitar. He loves making music. This was evident in everything he said in the interview with Rick Beato. And that quote that I mentioned at the beginning of this, it's not a piece of wood with strings, it's a being. That's our sign of respect that he has for the instrument and love that he has for the instrument. And of course, playing that instrument and creating music with it. You know, one takeaway that I had was, especially in the early parts of this interview, the look on Rick's face was, for lack of a better word, starstruck. Or at least there is a high and sincere level of respect that he holds for Alex Lifeson, and that was just really cool to see. He just had a schoolboy kind of grin on his face, and you could tell that he was elated to finally be sitting down with Alex one-on-one, you know, because they sat up there in Toronto for these interviews, Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson respectively. Of course, Alex joined Geddy Lee at the end of his. One of the first things they talked about was the Alex Lifeson chord. Yes, this chord is so Alex Lifeson. In Xanadu, we hear that particular chord, and being so unique, so sonically unique, Rick had to dub it and christen it the Lifeson chord, the Alex Lifeson chord. And I just thought that was really cool. Rick asked Geddy the most questions, or at least we got the most responses about Anika from Geddy Lee. He says she's an extremely hard worker. They're throwing 40 songs at her, and that her work ethic is, does that sound familiar, by the way? Hard worker? We know this. It's been long and storied about Neil, Geddy, and Alex throughout their entire career. They worked very hard, not only in writing, but in recording, but also putting on a tour and practicing for it. Everything they did, they worked extremely hard for. It's that work ethic. And it goes along with their extreme musicianship and their songwriting prowess. The fact that they're putting in the hard work as well means everything. And you can hear it in the music. You can see it when you go and see them live. The hard work. So of course, Anika fits this template like a glove. You put in the work and you're going to get results. And that's just how life is. With regard to Anika, Geddy also added that she's fresh. She's something new for the band, and that her story tells a different story than their story. And again, this fresh take, this fresh perspective, and really, you know, we're seeing this kind of snowball roll down the hill and gather momentum and size as it goes, where we're hearing little possible hints pointing us towards the inevitability or possibility of a new Rush album. And really, this new perspective and this fresh take, I think Anika would bring something new to the band, something really cool, and something sonically we haven't heard before. And yet all along, now here's the thing, we know her goal is to honor Neil Peart, the way he played his parts, and get the feel of his parts. We know this, right? Now, the question is, would she do this in a studio as well? I'm hoping so. You know, and that takes a really great mind and a little bit of humility. And of course, tons of experience and chops behind it. So we take Anika as a drummer, and she has to have those four things: a great mind, humility, great chops, experience, and talent. Okay, those 5 things. You take those 5 things. It's only with the culmination of those 5 things that you have the ability to detach yourself enough so that you can honor the man that came before you, okay? We don't want the next Rush album to sound completely alien to us, but we do want to sound kind of fresh as well. At the same time, it will sound like Rush. Of course it is. The songwriting duo is still there. We're not talking lyrics, but Geddy and Alex coming up with the riffs and the melodies and putting it all together, the maestro before the computer, putting the pieces together, him capturing lightning in a bottle of Alex in that control room, recording his overdubs and his solos, and all the initial riffs he came up with, all these things put together. This is the songwriting duo, okay? Like McCartney and Lennon, this is Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson. And because of this, though, Anika bringing something fresh to the table. Now, in 2026, especially when you have a world tour on its way to being sold out, especially when you have now successfully, I mean, they haven't hit the stage yet, but as far as just us being excited, us buying the tickets, they have truly come back after 10 years being off. And now they're back in the saddle and they're ready to ride that horse again. To do that successfully is amazing. And honestly, few bands could do this. And isn't it really special that the band that you and I love, Rush, now has the ability to, quote, come back? You know, we could talk all day long about the Neil situation, the Anika in the room, okay? We could talk about that. But let's move forward from here. Except that the boys are back. They're excited. They're energized. They're ready to go. And there's been a lot of discussion between all of us, as there should be. Can Geddy do this with his voice? Is Alex up to it? Is arthritis going to play into this? Age and so on. Okay, well, let's address some of those. Well, first of all, I know that Geddy has been taking voice lessons. And he has told in his interviews that, hey, guess what? I have opened up parts of my range that had not been there for a little while. He's gotten vocal lessons. Whether you go from Alex, Geddy to Neil, one particular thing that came through in these interviews that we've known all along, though, is humility, respect, but also, I mean, think about the relationship between Geddy and Alex. And I believe they both spoke about this as a very special, tight relationship. And imagine, though, being humble enough to where you've written down a page of lyrics, you meaning Neil writes a page of lyrics, gives it off to Geddy. Geddy had full reign over which lines to use because he has to then evoke those feelings, express those emotions, and convey this idea to us. Okay, so sometimes Geddy, and they spoke about this in an interview, would actually start like, you know what, I like it when it starts here. Forget this part up here, okay? But start it here and then go from there. And Neil wasn't exactly married to, I mean, now that is fascinating. Because I've talked about wanting to control the entire universe of the creation, from conception to inspiration and idea to the fruition and creation of that final product, right? That end-to-end control. But Neil, though, coming up with lyrics, his respect and his respect for Geddy in the process, his respect for Geddy as the singer who has to sing it, but his humility to not be completely married to those lyrics. Neil had that. Again, Rush would probably not have lasted had Geddy and Neil did this. If Neil held on so tightly to these lyrics and Geddy put his foot down, I don't want that. I don't want to do this. Imagine the wars and the battles that would have been waged over lyrics and singing. But they weren't. That's humility. And that kept coming around over and over and over again. And we've all sort of known this for decades, that the guys are pretty humble. They actually have joked around like, you know, we're just three guys from Canada, right? Three simple guys. If you can go back and realize, like, I need to check these boxes. I need to keep reaching for that level of excellence that he once had. And I know that, you know, we've had discussions, okay, about the peak performance of Geddy's voice through the years. I've seen in just recent comments, you guys saying, well, in 2015, he was a little bit rough on things. Sure, fair enough. That can happen. But the fact that he's putting in the effort. Alex, in his interview with Rick Beato, talked about just getting his chops back. The goal of Rush for this tour is to go out there and to play to the very best of their ability. Point blank, and what else should we expect? Because that has been what they have been giving us for all of these years. So, of course, this is their aim now. And I've said many times when, you know, doubts have been expressed, when you guys have thought, you know, I can't, I'm not sure if they can do it. So many times I replied, even before I knew about the vocal lessons, even before I knew about Alex getting his chops back and getting things to where they should be, I knew that Rush would hold themselves to this highest standard, okay? They would hold themselves to the highest level of musicianship. And my hope, okay, that I expressed to so many of you was, like, if they can't attain that, then guess what? They wouldn't do it. Both Alex and Geddy confirmed that Rush is preparing around 40 songs. And when you go to each specific concert of the 50-something tour, you're going to hear 20 to 22 songs. This is giving Rush the ability to swap these out and have a different lineup for each consecutive night. So if they're playing 4 nights in a particular area at a particular stadium, you will hear a different set list, a different lineup. And this is pretty smart, actually, just from a sales standpoint alone, and also a creative one. In that, so I know some of you are going to see multiple dates, say in LA or Chicago or down in Dallas or wherever it might be in Florida. You're going to see multiple nights of Rush. I've heard from you guys. Well, guess what? You're going to go see Rush on one night. Maybe 2 nights from now, you're going to go see Rush again. And you're like, oh, cool. I didn't hear that song last time. Oh, and they made this change to the set list. So it's going to be really fun to see all the set lists coming away from the 50-something tour. And also we can see, like, are there any patterns there? Are they swapping them out the same way? That really does beg a big question. How is Rush going to swap out the total 40 songs into a 20 to 22 song set list? How will they do it? Do they have a method? And is there a reason behind? Rick Beato asked Alex, what is that one album where you felt creatively, sonically, musically, direction, inspiration, what is that one album? He said Moving Pictures. I believe Geddy has said this as well. They do hold that to be their greatest album, Moving Pictures, and it is hard to deny how brilliant Moving Pictures is, how special it is, that every song on there could be a song that you hear on the radio all the time, but every song on there, I mean, could be played in concert, and they were back to back. What, the Time Machine tour, right? Just like Alex saying that was the quintessential album for them, Geddy confirmed this as well. So they both think this, that Geddy put it like this: the songwriting and the production fit perfectly. There was a perfect union, melding, and marriage of both their inspiration, songwriting, and the production along the way to the final mix. And really, they do hold that to be their greatest album. A second to that, though, was Permanent Waves. And on Permanent Waves specifically, the spirit of radio, into that opening lick, you know it so well. And in these notes, and we've heard this before, but it was great to hear Alex explain it again to Rick, is that those are meant to evoke the sounds of tuning a radio, the sounds of the airwaves and stuff like that. Now, the tuning a radio came to the thematic changes throughout the song, right? From reggae to different styles and so on. But he wanted, again, this goes to Alex Lifeson's artistry. He wants to paint an audiovisual picture with his music so that we can have our own ideas, but go in a certain direction. And he tries to do that sonically with the notes that he plays on his guitar. And I'm just so cool to hear him explain that. Rick Beato asked Geddy, what makes Tom Sawyer so special? Meaning, why have so many people connected to it? And Geddy's response was, I don't know. It's interesting. Let me ask you, do you connect with Tom Sawyer? And if so, can you put it into words? Let all of us know in the comments. Geddy talked about the different production timelines of some of their early albums, such as Fly By Night, where they recorded it and mixed Fly By Night in only 10 days. On the 11th day, they had to go to Winnipeg for a gig. Can you imagine? That's pretty crazy. And then after that, Caressa Steel took 3 weeks. 2112 took 4 weeks to record. They also talked about the importance of 2112. It was, these days they're calling it Rebellion, but it really was Independence Day for them. And, on the level of America telling England, we've had enough. We're declaring our independence. We don't want to be under your ruling, your dictator. Well, you're, the King of England and his heavy taxation. No, enough's enough. We are going our own way. We are finding our own way. And with 2112, they did that. Record executives, A&R guys were all coming in and like, we need this and we need this. And needs to sound more like the first record. And let's get us some hits down. You know the story. So for them to have that creative vision, to be inspired, but also that creative bravery to create something and go, no, we're going to write a 21 something minute song or 20-minute song. And yes, that will be the side one of the album. And no, you won't be able to play that on the radio, but darn it, this is 2112. And after they toured 2112 for a while, all of us back then caught on. We're like, yes, this is it. And for me, 2112 was that album. I happen to be 14 years old. It was the late 80s-ish, okay? Because, I'm younger than some of you. But it was 2112 that did it, that sealed that deal. And this has been key for so many of us, that when you hear that first Rush, and then you listen from there on, that's it. It's like, I can't imagine me liking another band this much. And this is why Rush is still around. This is why we're buying tickets by the thousands to see them on the 50-something tour, is because we latch on a personal level. And I believe Geddy Lee spoke of this with Rick Beato, that you feel like it's yours. You feel this connection on an emotional, personal level. You've connected, especially for me, with Neil Peart's lyrics. They have gone with me through the journey of my life. And so many times have fit those certain moments and whatever coming of age situation, whether it be from high school to college to married and kids and job and moving on through my different stages of life through which I've gone, and so many of you have as well. His lyrics have fit certain moments like perfect little puzzle pieces. They've just fit. And I needed them in that moment. They rang out as true. And they sung to my situation. Do you guys feel that as well? Yeah, that's what Neil Peart did for us. And this is why we honor and we still talk about the professor now. As Alex and Geddy spoke with Rick Beato in these interviews, we were reminded of something. The fact that for 6 years, John Rutsey was the drummer. And this is before they got their 5-record deal, doing 2 records a year. Can you imagine that, by the way? Doing 2 records a year? And this is why, think about the chops that were built during those years. John Rutsey, though. Yes, he is the first drummer. 6 years before Neil Peart came in. And right on the cusp of the success, imagine being told that, right? Got a record deal. Things are amazing. And I'm sorry, John, we have to go another direction. Can you? I can't. It made John Rutsey rest in peace. Heavy, big time props go to him. Thank you, John Rutsey, for being the drummer to help the boys in those beginning days. That led to that first record, which then landed them the record deal and so on, though. He was, quote, instrumental in being the drummer for Rush before Neil Peart, which I do like to remind people that, of course, there's John Rutsey, there's Neil Peart, and now there's Anika. Terry Brown. His importance to the band has been talked about and is long and storied. You can't deny. He's almost like a 4th member of the band with so many of these studio recordings, going back to the earliest of days. But it's that cinematic film-like approach that Geddy said that Terry Brown gave them a cinematic perspective sonically as you're placing the instruments in the soundscape of what you listen to. And that Terry would see music as if it were a film. And this connects really directly with some of the comments from Alex, where, as he's composing the opening moments of Spirit of Radio, he thought of it as like, these are sonic waves, right? It's about, quote, viewing music in a cinematic way, in a film-like way. What I came away from all of this is how artistic Alex is. And we know Alex actually paints. But he is a pure creative being, and I can't respect something higher than that, than someone who loves to create and is all about their creation, creating art. And it reminds me of the lyric, art as expression, not as market campaigns, of course, from Natural Science. And even Alex, since he was asked, Alex said that when he records his overdubs, okay, he's in the control room alone. And what he does is he plays the first one, he kind of gets a feel for it. And then the second and third are like that sweet spot. And if he has to go to the fourth and fifth attempt at a solo or an overdub, he sort of loses it by then. What is that? That's lightning in a bottle stuff. That's creative, like a blast of creativity that happens only with pure improvisation in the moment to create art. And I just love that about Alex. And this is how he plays. And why is he alone in that room? Because he doesn't want someone over there going, hey, why don't you try this? Hey, why don't you try that? Whether it's a riff he's coming up with, okay, which leads into building a melody and into a song, and that riff goes into the song. He's working with Geddy. Geddy hears something amazing and he lays it down and he plays with it, because I call Geddy the maestro. Alex is this mad guitar genius, and a mad meaning, that's a compliment of praise. He's that pure artist. And Geddy, though, yes, he's an artist, but he's also likes to work in a much more controlled and systematic way. I work alone for a reason. I love to work alone, and when I have to work with others, it's difficult. And if I were captain of the ship, delegating things, because I like to be this one-man band. I like to be the captain and the crewman and the guy who steers the ship. I want to be the guy who pulls the mainsail. I want to run the entire ship myself, because I want that complete creative control. Because it's my inspiration, my vision in my head, and only I can truly bring it to fruition. To bring that creation out of my mind, which this is where they start. Anything I create, they start in my mind, and I try to then recreate that, with the computer. I use computers to create my art. By the way, if you ask me to draw anything by hand, like Alex can paint, forget it. My dad is a world-class painter. He's sold painting. He's amazing. But me, no. I can give you a stick figure. That's about it. But I create in a computer. From Photoshop to my editing to all the other graphics programs that go along with it. That's where I create my, quote, art. And that's where I have to see my vision fulfilled, just like Alex. I noticed a long time ago that every 4 albums, studio albums by Rush, there would be a live album. Well, Geddy's remark to this was that they wanted a moment in time in which they could have a recording that showed them where they were, how far they had come. And at this point in time, they sounded like this. Now, it just did work out perfectly, though, right? Like every 4 albums or so, there was a live album. We got to kind of depend on that. It's like there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, live album's coming up. And of course, it was. Another cool thing that I learned for the first time was the story behind the solo for The Garden. Of course, the final Rush song on the final Rush album on Clockwork Angels, The Garden. You guys know it. Well, while they were recording that, Geddy was out of his house for a little while. Alex goes over there. This is Alex relaying this to Rick Beato. And Alex goes down into Geddy's basement. Now, I think you've probably seen photos of this basement dwelling, right? With the bases so he has a studio down there. And Alex lays down a solo for The Garden. And what's great is to come back around to our thought process on the pure creation and his improvisational skills. Again, that light, when you capture that lightning in a bottle, that moment, it's a one brief special moment in time. A piece of music, for example. So when he lays down the solo for The Garden, he leaves, okay? He did his piece, done. All right, sitting on a hard drive. Now, Geddy comes home, listens to it, calls him up and says, dude, what was that? I'm paraphrasing a little bit. And he said to Alex, what is this? Talking about the solo from The Garden that Alex just laid down. And Alex, what was, he could like barely remember what he had just done, meaning the full depth and width there. So what happens is he gives it another listen. He goes, yeah, I guess that's pretty good. Yeah, it fits the song. Okay, number 1, there's that humility again. He just laid down this beautiful, iconic solo for The Garden, okay? It's a perfect fit for the song. It's emotive, it's emotional, and you can just feel it. But he's already basically trashed it, if you will, put it in the recycle bin of his mind mentally. He got that lightning out, and he captured it, luckily on a hard drive. Geddy listens to it, he's blown away, but his takeaway is, yeah, it fit the song. This is so important to Alex is playing. So Rush moves, okay, from the 70s into those early 80s, and we're getting into the whole keyboard synth era of the 80s. I'm talking Signals, Grace Under Pressure, and Power Windows, Hold Your Fire. That's where they're, it was still there and prominent until, of course, Presto. So that whole era. And in this interview, Alex explained that I just couldn't find my room to fit. We've heard this before, but there's more to it here. I couldn't find a fit for my guitar sonically. Of course, keyboards, when there's layers and layers and stacks of synths being laid down, that sonic space, that mid to upper, I mean, that whole middle sonic where the guitar normally resides, whether it be rhythm or lead or whatever, that sonic space, of course, that's Alex's domain. We got bass and drums and stuff. We have Geddy up here, but you, Alex, this is my place. Now you're crowding me out. And Alex expressed that it was difficult for him. So he goes out and he gets a guitar to sonically something that would really punch through and clean and clear so he can actually stay in that space. And that's why there is that kind of high, crisp, I hate to use the word tinny sometimes, sound in the synth rush albums of the 80s. Okay, so he gets that guitar. Why is this important? Let's talk about, again, we started talking about the garden solo. Oh, I'm happy it fit the song. That is key. That is where Alex Lifeson's humility comes in. Alex is humble and just wants to make the music work. What can I do for the team? He even talked about one of their songs where he's just doing all the stuff going on, synths and drums and singing, but he's just kind of giving occasional chords, right? Those ringing out chords, you know them well, right? He did that so much during those 80s times. He is happy playing those. Now imagine, though, if he had an ego. There are some bands, one of them has the initials DT, where the guitar player, he kind of is the de facto leader of the band, though, but there's enough confidence in his playing. I'm guarding my words so much right now because I love Dream Theater. But you can tell this is John Petrucci's band. And half the time you know that it's Mike Portnoy's band. Okay, you know who the key players are because John is the one who sets the tone. He comes up with those crunchy, iconic riffs, especially in these later years. It's like, you know it's Dream Theater. You know it's John Petrucci. I find it to be so opposite of Alex Lifeson. Alex Lifeson is just happy to complete the song, to fill his space, and what can I do to support the song, the lyrics, the music, and the melody, and the singing, and the drums, and the bass. Where can I fit? It's not about like, I need a monster solo here. I need to play 1,000 notes and do runs up and down my fretboard. It's not about that. He fits the song and makes it work. Again, this lack of ego is why you and I are now talking about a 50-something tour right now. This is why we saw the R40 tour, Neil's last performances, and I was blessed to see them in Boston on that tour. We are talking about this all these decades in, since 1974, when I was born. And by the way, Alex Lifeson is born the day after me. And which is a nice little segue to say that I learned that Alex Lifeson, I didn't know this personally. Again, you guys, maybe you did, but he's been playing since he's 12 years old, which I think is really cool. Now check this out. Playing since he's 12. When he was 21, it was 1974, the big breakthrough, the record contract, and them playing in the States right around my birthday and Alex's birthday. That's when they played the Cleveland Ballroom. He starts off at 12 and breaks through at 21. Okay, you guys can put those numbers together. I just think that's really cool. But he also took classical lessons, actually classical guitar, which Alex then attributes to so much of his sound that you can hear on certain things. And his love of playing acoustic. Think about that beautiful song, Hope. Okay? That's such a beautiful, beautiful song. His first guitar, I believe, was $9. And acoustic, when he got an electric, it was like $59. Each time begging his parents, I need a guitar. And then what's great is, starts off at 12, gets those guitars, takes guitar lessons along the way, I think in his teenage years. Then, guess what? Have you ever wondered what the footage was of Alex Lifeson and his family, Alex playing guitar in a basement, long hair, he's a teenager, and you see this footage in the Beyond the Lighted Stage documentary. Have you ever wondered where that came from? Well, we learned there was a Canadian documentary filmmaker that would go in and shoot people's families and record that for posterity, but also shoot the kids. His idea was, I'm going to bring like a bunch of kids into a barn and shoot them over 10 weeks. And I don't know, coming of age stuff, family stuff. That was just his idea. But because of this filmmaker, we have this archival footage. Alex leaning back at that dinner table saying, like, I don't need money, I don't need a car, I just want to play my music. It's ridiculous that this exists now. It's almost like it was just fate, destiny, that was meant to happen. From Japanese Wagyu Beef to Rush memes, and of course these great interviews with Alex Lifeson and Geddy Lee. It's been a joy having you here this time. I'm thankful for you being here. Thank you for subscribing. As always, I'm Eric. This is the Loudboy Experience. You have a good one.